Okay, are we ready to go? Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. It's really exciting to have so many of us together. And again, apologize for my voice. I'm not going to be talking the whole time. There are a whole bunch of us that you're going to hear from. And thank you guys so much for spending an hour with us. If you haven't put your name and affiliation in the chat, please do that just to introduce yourselves to one another. And I'll introduce myself to all of you. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Taryn Fort. I'm the Senior Director of Communications and External Influence at the Colorado Health Foundation. We are a statewide funder, headquartered in Denver, and we work all over the state. We obviously at our core are a grant maker, a funder, but we also engage as a social change maker at a very local level. We do lots of policy advocacy work and convening and different types of strategic communications, capacity building. And back in 2018, we started strategically investing in the media ecosystem. And that's just been a really exciting opportunity and body of work. We began working with the Colorado Media Project in 2020. And for those of you who are not familiar with CMP, as we call it, you're going to learn a little bit more about that organization during this conversation today. And CMP has just been an incredible partner for us as a funder, as we have really tried to understand how we really need to be thinking about the local news and information ecosystem as a part of our overall strategy. And we are very focused on racial justice and health equity at the Colorado Health Foundation. And we all know that those things are important, especially when it comes to civic engagement and our overall democracy and community cohesion. So we're really excited to talk about Press Forward Colorado today. We're also going to talk about the national initiative, which is really my responsibility. And what I would say is, as you have questions today, put them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. We're also going to have some time for Q&A. So Sam, if you want to go to the next slide, I will introduce us all to Press Forward. So last fall, some of you may have heard about the launch of this massive national endeavor called Press Forward. This is really a national movement that was launched collectively through the philanthropic community, through national funders largely, that is focused on strengthening our democracy by revitalizing local news and information. This is, to my knowledge, the most significant philanthropic collective that's been launched, certainly in the last decade, if not the last two, that is really specifically focused on the local news ecosystem. To date, those national funders who put the initiative on the map back in the latter part of 2023, they've already put $500 million into a pooled fund that is going to be distributed in lots of different ways. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the overall initiative is really focused on catalyzing at least $1 billion. So we've made a lot of progress. We want to see that $1 billion raised over the next 5 years or so. And I think one of the things that was really exciting for me as a funder when I heard about this initiative is that the focus of how all of these grants and these dollars are going to go into local newsrooms is really designed to be a ground up type of initiative. It is not designed to be a top down type of initiative in any way, shape, or form, which, as a funder working at a local level was really important for me to understand and hear more about. Sam, why don't you go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about kind of the way that Press Forward has come to be and what the initiative really represents. So I think, of course, we all know that $1 billion is a lot of money. It is incredible that we're going to hopefully be able to raise that much. But we also know that it's really just a drop in the bucket when we think about all the local revenue that's been lost in local journalism over the past couple of decades. And the vision of Press Forward is not necessarily to take us back in time to 2 decades ago. This isn't about plugging holes or recreating that local news ecosystem that we once had. It's really about catalyzing a local news renaissance that is a different way of thinking about how we consider the important role that local news plays in our democracy and our ability to really live into the community cohesion that we all know that we need and that we've lost, that enables us to be really civically engaged, and also in a way that we can hold government and electeds accountable. And so I'm not going to read through all the values that have been put into place around Press Forward. I will lift up that as a funder, again, for me, I was really excited to see that one of the values specifically is really focused on strengthening the connection between local newsrooms and the communities that they serve. Because we know that increasing local buy-in and revenue is not just going to come from philanthropy. It also needs to come from individuals, the community-minded businesses that exist in our communities, even public policymakers. And so we think this is a really incredible opportunity to kind of go back to some of the basics around how we kind of get together collectively as community members. And Sam, if you want to pop to the next slide. I'll talk a little bit about funding priorities. So again, Press Forward is this really amazing collective that's put together a lot of funding. They are fundamentally going to be putting funding out into newsrooms. So there are 4 funding priorities. The first one is really around strengthening local newsrooms that have the support of local communities, much like I was just discussing. The second priority is around closing some of those longstanding inequalities and inequities that we know exist in journalism coverage and practice. The third priority is about accelerating the enabling environment for news production and dissemination. And the fourth priority is focused around advancing public policies that expand access to local news and civic information. And Sam, can you pop to the next slide? So this is kind of a snapshot of the way that Press Forward looks right now in terms of that national funder base. We're going to talk a little bit about Press Forward Colorado in just a moment, because there are a set of local chapters that have been developed and recently were announced. There are 3 primary ways, that 3 different funding mechanisms that are going to be utilized by Press Forward in terms of getting these dollars out into community. I'm going to talk about 2 of them, and then I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Johanna at the Colorado Trust, to talk about the third one. So the first, and Sam, go to the next slide. The first funding mechanism that I'm going to talk about is something that we're calling aligned grant making. This really makes up the bulk of that $500 million that's been raised already at the national level. And the decisions that are this is going to be an invite-only type of grant-making experience. The decisions that will be made primarily by the national funders. And so one of the ways that Press Forward is organizing itself around making this a little bit easier for newsrooms to apply and potentially be invited for this particular funding mechanism is they're actually standing up a new site that's going to be powered by Just Fund. It's not launched yet, but we will make sure that everyone on this call has that information as soon as we do, where potential grantees will be able to create a profile. So you'll be able to articulate your newsroom's mission, share other pertinent information about the work that you do, about the work that you hope to do, the gaps that you're trying to fill. And that's going to be a really important way for these national funders to learn more about all the different potential grantees out there. And this again is not launched yet, but it will be launching soon. The second funding mechanism is a national pooled fund. So in April, we expect that Press Forward is going to open at least one funding opportunity in this area, a first round of applications for either one or more of those funding priorities that I just discussed. We do know that grant funding is going to be very competitive in this space, but take heart, because we know there are lots of different ways that many of you on this call hopefully will be able to take advantage of this amazing initiative. And again, we really will encourage everyone to fill out the newsroom profile that will exist on the Just Fund site that's going to be launching soon. And the last thing I'll say before I hand things over to Johanna is that this national pooled fund is actually going to be housed at the Miami Foundation. So more information to come on this website. You do see a link to the main website. Definitely encourage you to visit that and learn more. And I think expect to find information in your email inboxes from us as well. I'm going to be quiet. Thanks again for bearing with my voice, everybody. I'll turn it over to you, Johanna.
Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. Thank you so much for being here on a Friday morning. It's so good to see so many of you. I just want to go back to what are the ways that Press Forward is distributing funding. So the third way that is happening is through local chapters. This is where we come in. I am Johanna Ulloa with the Colorado Trust, and we are a health equity foundation. And over the past 3 years, we have invested more than $3 million in Colorado journalism. Just over 1 million through CMP's pool fund that is housed at the Rose Community Foundation, and the remainder directly to newsrooms. Some of those Colorado Sun, Chalkbeat, ProPublica, and Radio Bilingüe, as part of our strategy to support public accountability and policy changes that ensure that all Coloradans have the opportunity to thrive. Last week, I had the opportunity to be in Miami at the Night Media Forum, and where 5 Colorado foundations joined the wave of place-based funders, stepping forward to co-chair 11 new Press Forward locals, bringing the total nationwide to 17. Sam, next, please. A bit more about the pool fund. CMP was the logical home for Press Forward Colorado because, as you may know, Colorado funders have been pooling funds at the Rose Community Foundation, CMP's fiscal sponsor, for the past 5 years. We regularly offer open call grants and by invitation opportunities for funding from our Advancing Equity and Local News Fund, our Ecosystem Innovation and Collaboration Fund, and more to come in the new initiative to support a strong accountability coverage. Last week in Miami, I was so proud of the work that we have been doing in Colorado. Our state was held up as a national leader in local news innovation. We heard from so many people, got so many questions because of the leadership that we have been showing here. And we are very excited to have the leadership of so many funders, of newsrooms, and allies on this call today. I see a lot of familiar faces. That's very exciting. Next one, please. CMP was founded in 2018 with a deep belief in an ecosystem approach to addressing the crisis in local news. We know that no single newsroom or organization is the solution for all communities. CMP vision that all Coloradans deserve a thriving ecosystem of high quality, community-based, responsive local news and information sources that they can trust and use is so important. We know that families are facing so many different issues and they need to be able to trust and access information that they can then engage with their neighbors, their community, and also participate in democracy. Next, please, Sam. Since 2022, the foundations you see here in this slide have collectively invested near to 4.2 million in Colorado's local new ecosystem through CMP's pool funds to offer both open access and by invitation grant opportunities. As I mentioned, in addition, most of these funders are also making direct grants to strong local newsroom in Colorado, and sometimes collaborating to align funding for big bets or urgent needs that usually emerge. A primary goal in this new phase of work over the next 3 to 5 years is to bring more community-based and statewide funders into our coalition, and to leverage the support so we can ensure that all Colorado communities, especially those who have been traditionally underserved and marginalized, have reliable access to trustworthy news, local news, and information that support civic engagement. And now we're going to have Sam and Melissa give us a little peek of what's coming and how the CMP works and allocate funding and some current and upcoming opportunities, both for Colorado funders and for Colorado newsrooms. Sam and Melissa.
Thank you so much, Joanna. My name is Sam Moody. I'm the Associate Director of the Colorado Media Project. My pronouns are he, L. Yeah, we're going to go under the hood. I'm going to walk you through some of our budgets and how we do our grant making and what that has looked like over the last couple of years, and how we'll continue doing that in the future. Here's a peek at the investments that we've made into Colorado's local news ecosystem over the past 2 years, 2022 and 2023, and how we're allocating just over $1.5 million in spending for this year, 2024. Each year, about 80% of the dollars contributed, pooled by funders into the Colorado Media Project, go right back out the door as direct grants to local newsrooms, both to nonprofit and mission-aligned, locally owned for-profit newsrooms. So if you look at these charts, the orange, green, and yellow portions are direct grant making in support of our 3 strategic priorities. That's our advancing equity and local news grants, the orange bars, our community news, innovation, and sustainability funding, that's the green bar, and our support for accountability journalism, that's the yellow. Let me advance myself. Diving into a single year's financials, this is looking at last year, 2023. You can see we have, from our group of funders, we have funders who contribute, up to almost $500,000, and funders who contribute, $10,000 or $25,000. I will highlight that the Rose Community Foundation also donates a tremendous amount of in-kind staffing support as they're our fiscal sponsor, and I'm deeply appreciative to their team and the skills and technologies and support they offer us to let Melissa and I operate this fund as a team of 2. Just over 1/3 of the pooled funds which were invested in CMP in 2023 were restricted for specific uses or specific grantees, and just over $1 million were unrestricted funds that we get to deploy strategically across our different funding programs. Let's take a look at those specific funding programs. In 2023, we spent just under $1.6 million, again, with nearly 80% of that going out the door in direct grants to 87 grantees across the state of Colorado. Just over 10% of our budget in 2023, about $168,000, was spent on programming expenses. We operate as a hub of ecosystem research, external evaluation of our activities, and we work very closely with our partners, the Colorado Press Association, Colorado News Collaborative, to host an annual grantee convening, to bring newsrooms who are working on important projects together. Last year, that looked like our Public Square Local News Summit. And then just under 10% of our operating expenses, about $150,000, is my salary and benefits, fees to the Rose Community Foundation for grants administration and financial oversight, and our basic administrative, rent, technology costs, etc. Rose Community Foundation, again, takes a very small, very generous 2% overhead on funds that are invested in the Colorado Media Project. We're deeply grateful for all the support that enables us to get from their institution. And Melissa, my colleague and the director, her salary is paid pro bono by the Gates Family Foundation, which again really enables a team of 2 to accomplish quite a bit. Here's the most exciting part. These are our grantees. In 2023, we made 66 direct grants, totaling $1.27 million to 47 different grantees across the state. On this map, you can see the 27 grantees that received a total of $352,000 of funding through our Advancing Equity and Local News Fund, and 28 grantees that each received up to a $5,000 matching grant to leverage in their 2023 year-end fundraising campaigns as a part of the News Colorado Needs fundraising campaign. That was about $140,000 total in direct investments to newsrooms across the state. Digging into a couple of other of our grant programs, we have significant multi-year relationships with our ecosystem builders. Here at the top, the Colorado News Collaborative, the Press Association, the National Trust for Local News, Colorado Trust for Local News, and Colorado Community Media. These are state-level ecosystem actors who provide support and services to multiple newsrooms across the state. We also have multi-year investments in our community news network grantees, who are reaching underserved rural and ethnic communities and undergoing significant transformations in their business model and their community engagement models, and receive multi-year funding from the Colorado Media Project that really lets them drive forward some very exciting innovations in how they operate as newsrooms in Colorado. We also have some fantastic national partners who support research and capacity building for cohorts of Colorado newsrooms, bringing in really high-level expertise, skills, tools, workshops making those accessible to newsrooms across Colorado. For 2024, looking to the forward, we've allocated at least $1.27 million to our grant making, and we do have an exciting announcement. Last week in Miami, we learned that with our new role as the home of Press Forward Colorado, we are eligible to apply for up to $250,000 in over 2 years. So that's $125,000 a year in catalyst funds that are made available from that pooled national fund only to local chapters like Press Forward Colorado. I will hand it over to Melissa to talk a little bit more about the kinds of work we're doing.
Great, thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. Good to see you today. And thanks to all my colleagues for being on the call and for joining us in this effort. I wanted to just take a moment, the Colorado Media Project being named the home of Press Forward Colorado is a real honor. And it's also one of the messages that we kind of want to get across is that we've been kind of operating this way for a while now. And so it was really nice to be in Miami and able to share with some of the other Press Forward local chapters that are just getting started. Maybe they don't have a pooled fund yet. They don't have a multi-funder coalition, but that is one of the ways that Colorado is in a good position to really make sure that our newsrooms and our ecosystem is lifted up and for the attention of our national colleagues. So we feel like we're in a strong position. And also, like the national initiative, funders, I wanted to emphasize that funders here in Colorado are both pooling funds at CMP and also making direct grants and sponsorships and investments that align specifically with our foundation priorities. I forgot to mention, I'm Melissa Davis, if I don't know any of you in the audience. I am the director of the Colorado Media Project, but like Sam mentioned, I am a grant officer also at the Gates Family Foundation and the Strategic Communications Vice President. So, that's that's the main hat that I wear, and I do have a grant making portfolio there as well, in addition to pooling funds with my peers at CMP. This year, through the Press Forward Colorado initiative, we'll be putting a stronger emphasis on sharing what we've learned in a kind of funder to funder peer network and in Colorado over the past 5 years, in the hopes of recruiting more of our peers to find pathways to support healthy local news ecosystems. And we'll also be serving as a link to the national campaign. Myself and Taryn are going to kind of be the co-chairs and our representatives. And I'm excited, and also, as we mentioned, very excited to announce that we, as a Press Forward local chapter, will be applying for that $250,000. It's an application process, but we feel like we're in a strong position, and we'll keep you posted on how that funding comes in. We're thinking about ways. More on that later. So anyway, I wanted to go a little bit into, how do we at CMP set priorities for making funding decisions if we're bringing funders together. Big picture, we're guided by a theory of change, which is available on the CMP website under kind of our why. And for the past 3 years, we've allocated dollars to the 3 funds that we've mentioned. But we're also really responsive to ecosystem needs and making big bets when we have to. As just one example, in 2023, CMP's biggest grant was not something we originally budgeted for. Not only did we provide a grant, but we rallied direct grants from other CMP funders as well. And this is something, no spoilers, but you'll probably hear about pretty soon, maybe next week or the next couple weeks. To set our 2024 priorities and to start thinking ahead about our next 3 to 5 years, since last fall, we've been gathering input from all of you. At the CMP Summit in September, we gathered 130 plus journalists, community and civic leaders to develop a 5-year vision for what a healthy news ecosystem should look like. And that's also posted on our website. The series of meetings after that, we had with some ecosystem leaders. We had a full day summit hosted at CU Boulder. And then there have been working groups that have been led by some of our colleagues, both at the Colorado News Collaborative and the Colorado Press Association, and a new initiative being led by Rocky Mountain Public Media that are really carrying some of those big ideas forward that were identified by the groups. Also, we've just commissioned, thanks to many of you in the room who've been on interviews with some independent research we've been doing on public policy strategy and aligning some capacity building resources both in Colorado and nationwide. And probably in the next month or so, we will have some resources for you on that, helping you navigate some of the national capacity building resources that are available. Sam, next slide. Again, I just want to quickly go through a few of the funding priorities for this year. In January, we announced 27 new grants totaling over $368,000 that will support Colorado newsrooms, journalists, and media entrepreneurs in launching new projects and strengthening existing efforts to build a more inclusive local news ecosystem. You can see our 2024 grantees by scanning that QR code. And then looking ahead, we're thinking about how to provide more multi-year support for newsrooms that are serving communities of color and rural communities. Next slide. In February, we announced support for a new statewide initiative led by Rocky Mountain Public Media, the Colorado Press Association, and the Colorado News Collaborative, and CSU Center for Public Deliberation that will position local newsrooms as conveners of community listening and public deliberation in an election year against the headwinds of divisive national rhetoric, increasing polarization of local communities, and the digital overwhelm. We're pushing back with bringing neighbors together to have productive civic conversation. And the call for local newsroom partners is open through next week. And so Colorado newsrooms can scan the QR code on the left for more information. So we hope that some of you on the call, if you haven't done that yet, will take the time to fill out a short form to indicate your interest. You can indicate the level of interest and kind of the ways that you want to be engaged on the form. And if you're a community leader that's interested in serving on the steering committee for this initiative, you can scan the QR code on the right for more information. And we will also be sending out an email next week about that, about how community members can get involved. Next slide. And then later this spring, CMP will be announcing a new funding opportunity to help bolster accountability journalism in the state, particularly for smaller newsrooms with fewer resources to tackle big projects. If you're a funder interested in learning more, please contact me directly, and Sam and I will drop our emails in the chat. Next slide. And then looking ahead, we hope that by centering this community engagement all year long, newsrooms will be lifting up local priorities that they can use to develop community-informed coverage of the 2024 election and the aftermath, and ultimately create stronger cases of support for their own local fundraising campaigns. For the past 6 years now, we've supported a year matching grants so that newsrooms can leverage them in their year-end fundraising campaigns. And this year, if we are successful in our Catalyst Fund request, one of the things that we've been thinking about doing is creating incentives for new local matches from local community foundations and other place-based funders, really thinking about how we can use the funding that we have to catalyze more support at the hyper-local level for local news. Next slide. And then I just wanted to quickly put this up here. As I mentioned, one of the key priorities for CMP this year is to open the tent a little bit more to our peer-to-peer funders and to offer opportunities to highlight the great work that's going on in the field. So we've created a calendar of upcoming opportunities that we'll have for funders, and we'll be spotlighting some of the great work that's been going on. So that's just a quick preview, and we'll send more information out to funders and be inviting folks to come and present at some of these meetings. Next slide. And I just wanted to mention too, the other strategy that we're kind of leaning into this year is a lot of the funding that's already been announced for Press Forward at the national level has really gone to a lot of capacity building and membership organizations at the national level. There will be funding coming, for the local and statewide levels, but to date, a lot of the funding has gone to some of the bigger national capacity builders, like the Institute for Nonprofit News, the Local Media Association, News Revenue Hub, Rebuild Local News. And so I would just encourage everyone on the call to really be paying attention to those some of those opportunities. A lot of them come with capacity. If you are a member of any of those groups, there will be some opportunities, I think, coming through them. And then actually, Sam, before you go to that one, I just wanted, can we take the slide deck down? And I wanted to give a moment to hand it over to my colleague, Denise Winan, and invite Denise and also Sarah Kurz from the Denise from the Gill Foundation and Sarah Kurz from the Rose Community Foundation, which is CMP's fiscal sponsor, to say a few words just about their involvement in the Press Forward Colorado initiative and in Colorado Media Project. Denise?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So the Gill Foundation has worked in the public broadcasting space for over 30 years and worked to strengthen the organizations across the state. Primarily, we have a current focus outside of the Denver metro area and in more conservative rural parts of the state. And I think, despite the fact that we've been supporting journalism in many ways, we're probably one of the newest funders into the CMP projects and into this Press Forward new model of how we're looking at it. And the reason we came in and the reason we're so interested in this is Colorado's been doing incredible collaborative work, not just with creating funder tables where we can be more effective and efficient in what we're doing together, but also in the groups themselves and rethinking about the work that's being done. And I think, many times people think of print media or their digital counterparts when they think of local newsrooms. And I think one of the things that we're really proud about is we're bringing a new lens into local public broadcasting stations that may be one of the last local news outlets in small rural communities across Colorado. And we're looking for ways to not only support the individual organizations, but hub projects that lift up the entire network of public broadcasting stations. And I think that's what's so great about both CMP and this opportunity for Press Forward is we're going to be able to showcase a lot of what Colorado is doing, and at the same time learn from other collaborations that are taking place across the country. And it's really exciting for us to be one of the newcomers to the collaboration, but we think we have some experience that might be able to help some other parts of the news ecosystem as well. So thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. And Sarah, can you come off mute and say a few words?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Kurz with Rose Community Foundation. As Sam and Melissa said, we are the fiscal sponsor for Colorado Media Project and proud to be able to provide sort of the administrative and back office support to make this work happen. I think funder collaboratives are sort of jargon foundation speak, but you can see from the slides today the kind of work that we've been able to catalyze and the sort of snowball effect of so many foundations joining together to think about this in Colorado. And this moment with Press Forward really highlights the successes we've had to date and hopefully keeps Colorado on the map and elevates that reputation even more. So thanks everybody for being here.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. And I have Teresa Gorman, I was just realized is on our call. I know you had something, previous conflict, but I'm so glad you could be with us. And Teresa, if you can, if you don't mind coming off mute and just saying a few words, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, since you have been our liaison to Press Forward at the national level, but also Democracy Fund has really been just a huge catalyst behind the scenes. Democracy Fund is a national foundation, and they've been committed to building local news ecosystems across the country for more than the past 5 years. And so a lot of the groundwork that is now being watered with Press Forward, I think really began with the approach that Democracy Fund has taken. We had a slide a little bit earlier with a lot of other colleagues that are working on this across the nation, and a lot of those were Democracy Fund sites. So Teresa, are you here, and do you mind saying a few words?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for putting me on the spot. I was coming from a Press Forward meeting, so I missed the first half, but I'm so glad to be here and see so many both familiar and new faces. And just what was said right before me, Colorado is an amazing place full of collaborations, and I think that Press Forward is a great opportunity to bolster those even more, and to kind of move on and keep pushing to the next phase of great work that everyone's doing here. So really appreciate it, and thank you for being partners with us. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So we've spent quite a bit of time kind of telling you about what we're doing, and I wanted to just open the floor first to ask the question about, now that you've heard more about the vision and funding priorities for Press Forward and Colorado Media Project, how do these align with your institutional priorities? How do these priorities align with the needs and opportunities that you see within the ecosystem? And what do you see as the biggest opportunities for Colorado to demonstrate its leadership with national funders? We're going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to maybe take about 8 minutes because we're running a little bit behind, but let a few people respond to those questions, and then we're going to take Q&A, and we have a whole bunch of questions in the chat, so we'll go quickly to a couple people that we have kind of preceded with that question, those questions. So let's see, Amanda, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, good morning. I'm Amanda Mountain. I'm the president and CEO of Rocky Mountain Public Media. And I'm really grateful for all of the speakers' leadership and helping support not just our organization, but all journalism organizations in Colorado. And we are a 70-year-old organization. We're the largest membership organization in Colorado with almost 95,000 members in every county in the state. But as we're thinking about reinventing public media for the future so that we can continue to kind of grow and thrive and support thriving communities, we're really thinking about a 64 county strategy. How can we be innovative in the ways that we're collaborating with our partners on this call and beyond to extend our collaboration and our resources into all communities in Colorado in ways that are building trust and expanding that audience at a grassroots level? And we're also really interested in thinking about how can we position our resources as an organization as an ecosystem builder. Specifically, we're interested in testing out kind of innovative models of fundraising for collective impact. So we're excited about this opportunity and really grateful to be a lead partner in one of our first initiatives together.
Great, thanks, Amanda. And Linda Shapley from Colorado Community Media is another one of our kind of multi-year partners with the National Trust for Local News and the work that they're doing. Linda, do you have, can you come off mute and say a few words?
Just in regard, thank you so much for the opportunity. Colorado Community Media, as with its affiliation and ownership with the National Trust for Local News, we've been very lucky to kind of work very closely with the Colorado Media Project in the work that we can do to help elevate these very hyper-local communities. And we're still, trying to make sure that we're covering those communities in the best ways that we can. But we know what the biggest need is for more journalists. And so the ways that we can have these sorts of efforts kind of push toward that, I think will be a real help in terms of helping us get to where we need to be. But things like, the public listening opportunities and that sort of thing all help our journalists then do a better job of covering their communities. I don't know if that's what you wanted, Melissa, but I'll go there.
No, that's great. Thank you, Linda. And I think if we have Larry Rickman on the call, I think
Yeah,
Larry,
thank you.
were gonna-
Yeah, good morning, and thanks again. We're just really excited about this initiative. I mean, Colorado has stood, again, as others have said, as an example for others around the country in terms of really promoting collaboration and cooperation across news organizations who, historically saw each other as competitors. And it's just been thrilling to see that collaboration and cooperation now also extending to funders as well. And I mean, that is the key for all of this to work. And I'm thrilled to see that the application process begins next month and that things are moving forward quickly. And we're excited to learn more and work with our colleagues and figure out how to press forward. Sorry for the pun.
Great. Well, there are a lot of questions in the chat, and I just want to say that we might not be able to get to every single one, but we will take them to the side and we'll post like an FAQ after this. So just make sure that we will get to every one of these questions eventually. But right now, Sam, do you want to kind of lead us through and pick the top ones that you
Absolutely. I'm actually going to combine a couple of questions from Mike Sherry and Laura Hirschfeld-Zeller.
Great.
Thinking about newsrooms who are interested in engaging local community foundations and supporters that are interested in finding ways to worry less about their individual, fiscal needs and focus on collaboration and working together for collective impact, and getting community impact, community input around things like elections. What are some of the most important things newsrooms that are interested in those three things should be paying attention to here in Colorado?
So wait, can you?
I'm teeing up our the community engagement work that is helping newsrooms.
Okay.
Newsrooms that are looking to connect with their community local funders and with community members.
Okay. So like the grand plan here, right? Like one of the things that, like, just to be transparent, like we're the community engagement work that we're encouraging and funding right now is not, it is there's many reasons to do this, right? There's many reasons to really be focusing on connecting in different ways with your local communities. Amanda mentioned that there's an initiative. I said there's an opportunity to join this initiative right now. And I think, our hope is that by supporting hyperlocal newsrooms and coming together with having some of these community engagements, it'll give you opportunities to both bolster relationships with local funders and community foundations. We will be kind of working with our peers as well to reach out as some of these community events and other efforts take place. And so we're seeing this as kind of a coordinated effort. You're working on the reporting and the kind of things that you work on, and we're kind of working on the reaching out to folks that we know in your communities as well. So I hope that's helpful. And like we have the News Colorado Needs grant opportunity that we've had for the past 5 or 6 years. There are always incentives for reaching out to your community foundations and then trying to secure matching grants. And that's something that we'll be really emphasizing, I think, in our own outreach as well, is if there are opportunities for that. I don't know, Sam, I'm sorry. The question was kind of muddy, so I'm like,
I'm doing my best to combine a couple of things,
okay.
but no, I think you answered it well.
Okay.
And Laura, to dig into your piece on elections coverage, engaged elections models like that, developed by Harkin as an example, are really good ways to engage your community, start your elections coverage with what your community cares about rather than what candidates' platforms are. And we'll certainly include some links to things like that in our follow-up email.
Yeah.
Stepping back to the,
can I try that again real quick? Because I see what the question was. It was what are your recommendations to get a local community foundation engaged supporting local journalism initiatives? So yeah, so that was just a little, sorry, it was a little, I would say start with what the community need. We have an entire training series on this with our News Colorado Needs, and we have a lot of resources in terms of how you can frame your approach. And so that we have a lot of resources on that. CoLab actually has quite a lot of resources on that. So we'll follow up with you, Mike. And if other people are looking for that support as well, that will be some of the things we're focusing on this year.
Stepping back to sort of the national landscape, what advice would we have and what resources can we connect folks with for other states and regions that are looking to get into Press Forward? From Andy Mountain.
Can you say that again, Sam? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry if I broke up. What advice or resources could we point other regions or states towards that are interested in getting connected with Press Forward?
Other regions or states. So Press Forward actually just came out with this guide that I have right here. It says it's a Press Forward, a guide for local funders. And so it's really targeted at other states. I mean, we already have a Press Forward local here, but if you're attending this meeting and you're from another state and you're wondering, Press Forward has a really handy guide with a lot of resources for foundations specifically that want to get involved in supporting local journalism and also being a part of the initiative.
And there's also a great link that Teresa just shared in the chat for more information.
Let's see.
Any other questions we're seeing? You can raise your hand or just enter them in the chat. Oh, here's one. What are the best ways for hyper-local Spanish language news orgs to connect with more national funding opportunities?
That's a great question. So a couple of resources come to mind. Number one is there's the national membership organizations that I know that a lot of our Spanish language newsroom partners are members of. They are in a good position to, be connecting you to resources. A lot of them are starting to have more grant opportunities because they're getting some national funding. The Pivot Fund is also another one that comes to mind. They are working with independent newsrooms all over the country and have both capacity building resources and some direct grants. There's also the Local Media Association, which works with both nonprofit and for-profit newsrooms and has opportunities through the Local Media Association. And then also, if you, we will be lifting those local Colorado newsrooms up as well. So just reach out to us, and if we don't know you already, we'd love to meet you. I hope that answers your question.
Question about another question about national funding. Is aligned funding on the national level only for news organizations, or are journalism support organizations also eligible?
It depends on which funding priority they open first. They have 4 different funding priorities for that national pooled fund. And one of them, I think the third one maybe, is more targeted for capacity building organizations and technology organizations. So one of the things, that Sam and I are here for you is basically if you want to call us or email us and schedule some time, we have pretty open office hours. And if you want to talk through what you're thinking about before you submit something, we welcome a conversation because, that funding opportunity at the national level is going to be pretty competitive, and we want to help you put your best foot forward.
And Melissa, I think the question was actually about the aligned funding, not the pooled fund.
Oh, okay.
So the aligned fund that obviously the national funders are going to make decisions about. Yeah. But I think we still would encourage folks also, as soon as they can, to create a profile in the system that's going to be launched by Press Forward, because that will begin the visibility around different potential grantees.
Yeah, that's and this is maybe a good segue. Like I said, we'll mine all these questions and make sure that we answer each one of them directly. And if you have other questions, I just put my email in the chat, and Sam, please do that as well. And would you please put up the next step slide, Sam? It's slide 25. Okay. So here are the next steps. So for Colorado newsrooms, the first thing you should do is, if you're not on the mailing list for Press Forward National, you should do that. It's right off their homepage. Also the Colorado Media Project, if you just go to coloradomediaproject.com, you can sign up for our mailing list. Join the engagement initiative. The link is right there. If you haven't indicated what you might be interested in, it's a really short form. And then in April, check out the Press Forward National Pooled Fund for priorities and what they're looking for in an application. And you can create a Just Fund profile for your newsroom on the National Press Forward site. And then for Colorado funders, if we have some of those on the call, you can email myself or Taryn, if you don't mind, Taryn, if you're okay with that, put your email in the to set up a one-on-one call or receive Press Forward Colorado Funder Table invitations. Anyone who's registered, who's on the call right now and registered, we'll make sure you get those Funder Table invitations. And then also would encourage you to check out all of the funders on the call, check out CMP's 2023 white paper for a primer on Colorado's local news ecosystem. The link is right there. Check out the Press Forward Guide for local funders. It has lots of approaches and case studies and resources. And then also for anyone who's on the call that is a nonpartisan civic and community leader, we are taking recommendations or interest from you to join the statewide community engagement initiative steering committee. And also would encourage you to check out the primer on the local news ecosystem, which we produced last year in conjunction with Colorado College and University of Denver researchers. So you can take me out, take the.
Is there any chance that we can have those links dropped in the chat? We're not able to.
I will be happy to do that. Actually, Sam, would you go ahead and do that? And
thank you.
Yes, and we'll send a follow-up email to everyone who's attended with the slide deck with all of these links as well. So that
okay, thank you.
Yep. So last chance for questions. We have 2 more minutes. If anyone wants to stay on or has more questions, you can feel free to do that.
Melissa, one question I saw in the chat that I don't think you answered was, and maybe you did and I missed it, multi-year opportunities?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So from CMP, the blessing and the challenge of a pooled fund is, we have to have to commit to multi-year funding opportunities. We have to have multi-year funding from our source funders, right? So, for example, we've been operating on 3-year cycles, and so the bar chart with the 3 years that you saw Sam put up there, we're kind of coming to the end of our current 3-year cycle. So it's really good timing for us. This is a year where we're going to be in fundraising mode to get money into the fund, but we need that commitment first. And so also, I think I just want to emphasize that, so we like doing multi-year funding last cycle because of the Colorado Trust generosity. We had 5 3-year grantees, and we really learned a lot about how effective that was and how we could really support these newsrooms in a different way than we can with just 1-year funding. And so we are hoping to get more multi-year funding so that we can do some more of that multi-year grant making. That said, we also want to emphasize that we're really trying. Again, most of the foundations that put into CMP also do their own grant making, sponsorships, other things. So we'll keep you abreast of those opportunities as well, directly from some of these foundations. And also, we're not going to be, trying to divert any funders that are funding newsrooms directly. For those of you who do get grants directly from funders, we want to encourage all of our peers to keep doing that, because we know how important. That's always our first message: is who are the newsrooms that you use most and you trust, and fund them directly. And then if we're bringing in new funders to the field, or funders who aren't familiar with journalism grant making and who feel more comfortable providing funding through a pooled fund, those are the ones that we're trying to get into the pooled fund, but still definitely encouraging direct grant making out in the field. That was a great question. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And as always, the door is open. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. Thanks.
Thanks.